Bai Jie finally managed to retire and was considering how to live a retirement life when he was arrested by his superior and sent to the cultivation world as the leader of the Wanjie Sect. Xiao Bai cried and said, "Boss, I have already completed the retirement procedures." White-haired beauty, smiling at death. In order to appear more sociable in front of the villains, Bai Chuai raised his head and said, "Our goal is to dominate the cultivation world." This reaction is not right. Bai Jie. It's not easy to lead villains this time. Introduction is incompetent, move to the main text. Chapter 1. The Little Bitter Gourd of Retirement Failure. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the vast and infinite depths of the universe, there is a powerful organization. The Universal System Bureau. Wandering in the universe, inside a huge white unknown metal structure building, Bai Chuai couldn't help but curl her lips and smile, trying her best to restrain herself from bouncing around like a child. Today is a special day. She, Bai Lao, is finally retiring. From time to time, she looked at the red chip gemstone embedded in her left wrist and felt happy. Here are the documents she needs to submit for retirement. She was so excited that she didn't even notice the different coldness of the World Bureau today. In the past, the Bureau could not be described as bustling, but there were also task takers who completed tasks and chatted or exchanged information in small groups. Now, she has walked all the way, but she hasn't seen a single person. Walking through the long white passage, pushing open the door of the logistics department, Bai Dao walked straight to the office desk where he handled retirement services. In front of the female advanced intelligent organism in front of him, who is the staff handling retirement, he said, "Sister, I will handle retirement." He then pressed the gemstone on his wrist towards the groove in front of him. "This is my retirement information." The information stream in the gemstone is transmitted into the brain domain of the intelligent creature through a device. She closes her eyes to receive it, confirms it is correct, and then lifts her hands. The index and middle fingers of both hands are pressed together against Bai Lao's temples on both sides. The information is accurate, and the cannon fodder system and its task memory are being stripped away. During this period, she didn't feel anything. She had thought that the separation would make her suffer a lot. About 10 minutes later, Bai Dao felt his body light and heard the other person say emotionlessly, "The separation is over." Task taker Bai Dao, congratulations on retirement. The red chip gemstone on the wrist has turned into a small egg-like emerald-like surface, with golden patterns tattooed on both sides of the jade, just like wearing a gold bracelet, which looks strange and beautiful. The staff said that this is her retirement certificate and an intelligent system, and in the future, her monthly pension will be transferred to her system at the designated time. The matter finally came to an end and went exceptionally smoothly. Bai Dao's eyebrows and eyes curved, and he couldn't help but touch the jade and stone. He couldn't help but jump away, and no one saw him anyway. "Bai Jie, Zero is looking for you. Hurry up to the office." A metal ball with flashing wings flew up in front of her, and the mechanical sound of business disrupted Bai Dao's good mood. Zero, her immediate superior, is said to be the most mysterious boss in the department besides the boss, with immeasurable wealth. Let me put it this way, Bai Jie's biggest wish before retirement was to save money to buy a planet that was not controlled by the world plot and enjoy her retirement life well. Unfortunately, until her retirement, she didn't save enough to buy a planet, although her indescribable financial luck accounted for part of the reason. The ultimate reason was that the planet without the world plot was too expensive. All worlds controlled by Wanjie Bureau are controlled by the plot, and their taskers are executing missions in those worlds. Without a world plot, it means not being controlled by the boss god of the World Bureau. As long as the coordinates are not intentionally leaked, it will not be located by him. It is a free life that is out of his sight. It can be imagined how rare and precious such a planet should be. Unfortunately, as far as Bai Dao knows, there is only one person in the entire universe who owns this planet, and that is Zero. This malicious leader who exploits employees has made Bai Dao jealous and crazy. Finding her now is definitely not a good thing. Why is she so lazy? She can leave Wanjie Bureau for retirement as soon as possible. The more I think about it, the more angry I become, which affects my good mood for retirement. Bai Chuai angrily pushed open the office door of Zero, and his face changed instantly when he opened it. Little bitter Gourd looked like crying, "Boss, he's already retired." Looking at the white-haired beauty dressed in an abstinence white uniform, with her calm gaze. Playing coquettish is not feasible. Bai Kai took a deep breath, suppressed his resentment, and obediently said, "Boss, may I ask if there is anything you need to explain to me, a retired person?" She emphasized the word retirement again with special emphasis. "This task is urgent, you are currently idle in the bureau." The man bent down and flipped the interface in front of her, allowing Bai Jie to see the information on it. Smooth long hair brushed over her shoulder, and cold eyes stared at her. The half-high collar uniform button was buttoned to the top, abstinence yet gentle. Such a beautiful woman, Bai Dao did not have the mood to appreciate it. Her gaze turned from the panel to Zero and she said with a stern expression, "I have already planned my retirement life for the next 100 years. She looked steadfastly at Zero, unwilling even to let the remaining light fall on the piercing words, XZ110 planet. Appointment letter for the Wanjie Sect leader. Pop. The panel directly slapped her face. Because it was a virtual interface, there was no substantial damage, but looking back at Zero through the blue text on the screen, the cold air rushed straight to his back, causing Bai Dao to tremble all over, recalling the fear of being dominated in the past. Bai Kai still whispered unwillingly, I have already completed my retirement, and taking on this task may not be suitable." "Oh, the retirement process has been changed. In the end, I still need to approve the process, otherwise you won't receive your retirement pension." Bai Kai's eyes widened slightly. What kind of rogue clause is this? She has reached her age limit and according to regulations, she does not need the approval of her immediate supervisor. She has gone through so many departments to obtain the necessary documents, and in the end, she still needs the approval of this dead man. What is your approval opinion? The beauty in white smiled at her death and said, "Agree." Bai Kai's heart lifted as he spat out the last few words from his cold mouth and fell to the bottom of the valley. After this task is completed. No love left. The disappointment after hope brought despair. However, Bai Kai stared blankly at the ground, saying that she didn't listen to the turning point of the dead man. "Based on our years of love, during your mission, you can still receive retirement pay as usual, and increase your salary tenfold per month according to the mission situation. I heard that you really want a planet without a plot, and saving it for 100 years is not impossible. The habit of doing tasks is to do it for free." In order to save money and redeem herself, Bai Kai's eyes see light again, as if seeing freedom waving at her. Taking a step back, holding on to the panel and carefully examining the task materials, he said, "On duty supervisor, right? Boss, you don't know, I have had an ideal of teaching and educating since I was young, and I am willing to dedicate my life to it." Zero looked at her white uniform, short hair that only reached her neck, and her beautiful and heroic face was filled with a sense of mission. She curled her lips and said, "That's great." The next moment, the white light brushed against my face, and a severe dizziness struck. After Bai Dao left, the lights of the Wanjie Bureau, which were still as bright as day, went out one by one, and the world gradually fell into darkness. "Since I've been following you for so long, won't I stay with you until the end?" said Zero expressionlessly into the air. No one replied to him, the twisted spatial ripples gave the answer. The world is plunged into darkness and silence, and the sound of zero waves and no waves gradually becomes low and inaudible. Set up spatiotemporal interference to block the exploration of the Abyss S001 prison's field of view. Chapter 2. Inherits the Empty Shell Sect. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Time and space positioning completed, villain successfully deployed, host body data scanned, deployed. Attention. Unknown attack, danger. Danger. Launch. Failed. Bai Kai lost consciousness in the chaotic sound of mechanical currents. Fuyin Mountain Range, Wanjie Sect. God damn it. These bandits are ungrateful, not as good as pigs and dogs. My poor young master. Woo. The sound of ghosts crying and wolves howling disturbed Bai Chuai's headache, and he frowned and opened his eyes. The sudden light made her subconsciously cover her eyes, only then did she realize the sticky feeling on her forehead. She raised her hand with a hollow eye and saw a lot of blood. It turns out that I didn't get a headache from the noise, I was really injured. The short old man who was holding on to Bai Lao saw her movements and quickly stopped crying. He hoarsely said, "Thank goodness, young master, you have finally woken up. Otherwise, how could the old slave have the face to see his master when he died?" Seeing that someone was about to cry again, Bai Jie, who was not sure, quickly spoke up and said, "Stop crying. First, treat the wound for me. Then tell me what exactly happened." Bai Dao's words reminded the heartbroken old man, and he fumbled around before finally tearing off a strip of cloth from his inner garment to bandage Bai Dao's wound. At the same time, while rapping and muttering, Bai Kai also learned the cause and effect of the situation. This is a place called Wanjie Sect. Bai Kai is the daughter of the previous sect leader Bai Jie, and the old man holding her is Chao Mu, a servant who has been serving Bai Kai since childhood. Wanjie Zone is located in the Fuyin Mountain Range, which is a boundary with thin spiritual energy. 100 years ago, Bai Jie discovered that although this place was not full of spiritual energy, its territory was large and the scenery was pleasant, so she chose to live in seclusion here. Later, with the help of Bai Dao, the Wanjie Sect was founded and some disciples were recruited. It is said to be accepting disciples, but they are worried that their daughter will not be accompanied by peers and will be lonely. The role of those disciples is mostly to exist as playmates for Xiao Bai. 10 days ago, Bai Jie, who had returned from a trip, was seriously injured. On the second day of her return to the sect, she passed away and had not yet had time to arrange for her future affairs. The disciples of the sect had different thoughts. They relied on Chao Mu's low cultivation level, and Bai Kai was also a fool. They worked together to empty the sect's wealth, and even injured Bai Kai, who was trying to retain everyone. They all defected from the sect and went their separate ways. So, the scene of Bai Dao waking up appeared. Bai Jie thought to herself, this cheap mother's judgment on people is really not good. With so many disciples, there is no one with a conscience. After thinking about it, I feel that those people do not have the heart to respect their teachers and values the way. After all, Bai Jie didn't really treat those people as her apprentices to teach. She just threw a basic cultivation booklet at each person, and only occasionally guided them when she was in a good mood. The success of learning or not depends on personal creation. However, Chao Mu also said that those people were all abandoned orphans. If it weren't for Bai Jie dying in a neglected corner, there would be no chance to embark on the path of cultivating immortality. Shengmi En Domi Cho, who saved people but did not teach them wholeheartedly, also incurred hatred. Alas, human heart, the most difficult thing to understand in this world. As Chao Mu spoke, he felt something was wrong. Looking at Bai Kai's clear and bright eyes, he was pleasantly surprised and trembled as he asked, "Young lord, you are awake." Woo. Then she started crying again. Bai Kai felt a mess about what she was supposed to be wearing but inexplicably having a mother. She couldn't help but cry next to an old servant who looked not very smart. Covering her head, she felt like crying herself. "What are you crying for again?" The old slave cried for her master. The elixir she exchanged with her life has finally taken effect. Unfortunately. Sob. Unfortunately, she can no longer see the young master's sober appearance. Bai Kai's impatient expression paused, and a gentle and beautiful woman seemed to flash through her mind, gently touching her head. Did she die for her? I owe you a favor that I can't afford before the task is completed. Ah, I'm so annoyed. What the hell is going on? Asterisk in the twilight, Bai Jie lay on the bed of the light board, looking at the white Pisces jade pendant in his hand as the faint light seeped through the window. In his ears came the snoring of the old Xiao outside and the sobbing of his dream. What a crying old man. Old Xiao said that this jade pendant was a token left by Bai Jie to Bai Kai. If there were many things to explain, he left. He thought that he was planning to pass on the position of the patriarch to Bai Kai. Inheritance is an empty shell sect, and Bai Dao really can't rest assured. The important thing is her task. She shifted her gaze from the jade pendant to her left wrist, where there was a green jade stone that others couldn't see. From her awakening until now, she only had time to take care of her own son, and the system seems to have undergone self-repair over the years, without discovering any aftereffects of being attacked. After the voice broadcast, the virtual interface is continuously displaying a paragraph. Successfully arrived at the target planet. Do you want to initiate the mission of the Wanjie Zone Ban Dao? In a series of previous voice broadcasts, Bai Dao already knew that he was attacked by unknown forces during his teleportation. In order to protect her, the system scans her body data and releases it in the form of a baby, while her consciousness wanders outside. The system was attacked and subjected to excessive wear and tear, falling into a forced sleep state for self-repair until her consciousness returned and the system felt a wave of awakening. Bai Kai did not hesitate and chose to start the mission. Task initiation: scan shows that the owner already owns the territory of Wanjie Sect. Do you want to use this territory as a development base for Wanjie Sect? Bai Jie replied silently, yes. A 3D projection image appeared in front of her, and several wooden houses owned by Wanjie Zone, as well as a scene not far from the front and back of the houses, appeared in front of her. Looking further out, there was a mist marked as expandable, unlocked. The three large characters, Wanjie Sect, on the wooden plaque at the entrance of the courtyard have been replaced by Wanjie Sect. Looking at the simple and shabby sect structure, Bai Jie didn't mind it either. After all, she inherited the Jiangshan established by Qin Yang at the beginning, which was easier than her own enclosure and saved some expenses. Thinking of the antagonistic sect that had not yet met, Bai Jie planned to use his own small treasury to upgrade the existing buildings. As for Chao Mu, he felt like he could just deceive him casually. Insufficient belief points, unable to upgrade. Insufficient. How could it be? The upgrade you clearly displayed only requires 300 points, my account. The system skillfully retrieved the balance of Bai Lao's account, with the bright red 100 intentionally highlighted in bold. Wait. I remember when I applied for retirement, there was still over 30,000 in my account. She thought very well, including the monthly retirement pension, and her childhood was also very good. The system's emotionless mechanical sound rang out. In order to maintain the owner's injured body to repair, I obtained the permission to call the account balance and regularly automatically converted it into energy to provide to the owner until fully awakened. No, although I wasn't aware of it before, I should still have a monthly pension. The previous attack caused the connection with the Wanjie Bureau to break down. Only when the owner completes the task can they regain contact and return to the Wanjie Bureau. Bai Kai's mind was completely blank, and the mood of wanting to inquire about the task was completely gone. The system will now state. Due to humanitarian reasons, monthly subsistence allowances will be provided. Low subsistence allowance. Gone. There are only 100 faith points left, haha. 100 points. Can't my scarce monetary law fail once? She looked at the numbers on the interface and muttered to herself in a silly way, then her expression went crazy. Ah. Bai Dao collapsed and pounded the bed. The snoring outside interrupted, and Chao Mu carefully flipped over. His poor young master couldn't help but secretly cry in the quiet of the night. Indeed, the calmness of the day was her strong facade, and she definitely didn't want him to see her fragile side. It's really, really heartbreaking. Chapter 3. Setting off to pick up opponent students. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. The next day, the sun was bright and the wind was pleasant, making it a great day to go out. After the initial collapse, Bai Chuai reluctantly accepted that he was now penniless, and if he did not complete the task, he would have to wait until death in this world called the primordial realm. Last night, I received relevant knowledge about the primordial realm from the system and planned to set off to the depths of the Arctic glacier to retrieve my students. The system reacted quickly at the moment of attack, freezing several villains in a desperate situation in this world that ordinary people would never and could not enter. What makes Bai Jie vomit blood the most is that she is now also among this average person. Come on, tell me, you're making a mess of land for people. Where do I, the poor people now, have the money to buy props to pick them up? Can't you just teleport it directly to someone? The system reserves insufficient faith points and can only teleport the master to the periphery of the glacier. I don't believe that Zero has not given you the permission to use the independent system belief point library, otherwise the malfunction cannot be activated. The permission needs to be established between the owner and 4 students before it can be used, so it is still necessary to find them first. Okay, the problem has come back again. How much did you say you gave me subsistence allowance before? The electronic sound paused for a strange moment before continuing to sound. Special account for subsistence allowance, which can ensure providing 25 faith points per month for the owner for 10 consecutive years. Pretty she knew that being stingy would not be too generous, so she reserved 3,000 points for her as a backup. Thinking of something, Bai Chuai's face changed and he said, exchange 1 belief point for 10 inferior spirit stones, and it will take 1 month. 250, Master. The system is a bit proud and rushed to answer. Oh, I'll give you a sense of superiority. Alright, I'll have to keep an eye on your own little treasury when I turn around. Don't let me find an opportunity to sneak in and perform a wild goose crossing and plucking feathers for you. Bai Jie sneered. The system trembled and actively turned off the microphone. There are always more ways than difficulties, and she doesn't believe that as a perfect retired taskmaster, she can still be ruined by this task. Bai Chuai left the 250 exchanged spirit stones for Xiao Mu with 150, and prepared to depart with the remaining 100. It's all my fault that I'm a useless plant spirit who can't leave the floating cloud mountains too far. Young master, I'm not at ease going out alone. These spirit stones. I'm just visiting my mother's former friend, there won't be anything wrong. Take good care of your home, this is your young master's stronghold, and it's all up to you. Those people have pried away the spirit stones set up by their mother's formation. If anyone comes to trouble, they will use the spirit stones to restart the formation at a critical moment. After thinking for a moment, Bai Chuai added, Old Chow, if you can't hold on, run into the mountains. No matter when, you are the most important. Bai Chuai gracefully turned his back and waved his hand, leaving only Xiao Mu to silently wipe away his tears, watching his distant figure disappear until he couldn't see it. Tong, why didn't my previous memories merge successfully? It may be a sequelae, not a big problem, I will gradually remember it in the future. I hope so, I don't like to owe emotions. White's whispers dissipated with the fading figure, and spatial jumps began. Arctic Glacier. Due to a rumor that cultivators gathered from all directions, either in groups or fighting alone, advanced towards the depths of the glacier, bringing a lot of vitality to the once desolate territory. On the contrary, the glacier hinterland, where even the sound of the wind appears cautious. A black figure flashed away, coming and going without a sound, without causing any ripples. Bai Jie looked at the bustling crowd and asked with a wooden face, this is the desperate situation where ordinary people dare not and will not come. Sigh. No one knew there were rumors of Ice Phoenix appearing in this place. Master, let's take a closer look. Life will never be smooth sailing, I need you to pour me chicken soup. Make an system understand. After waking up, everything goes wrong, and Bai Kai's heart is filled with depression. I'm very angry. System. A gathering place for crowds will have business opportunities, and small-scale commodity trading markets will gradually form on the periphery. The cold wind carried white snowflakes and fell on the temporary roof canopy, melting due to the cold formation. Bai Daoxian picked the cheapest pigudan, and the taskmaster won't starve to death, but her hunger state will keep her body weak and uncomfortable. She was only envious of other things. Spiritual artifacts, defense spells, are all luxury items that she cannot afford. Suddenly, a commotion came from ahead, stopping her from continuing to stroll. A few high-ranking cultivators who were full of energy a few days ago are now supporting each other and looking disheveled. TSK. It seems that these disciples of the Wanjie Sect have not been well received either. That ice barrier fruit is really difficult to deal with. There were people clicking and talking at the booth not far from Bai Kai. Do Taoist friends still want to continue watching? I have been here for half a decade without any clue, and now even the disciples of the great sect have been defeated and returned. I really have no confidence to stay here. Recently, a small secret realm has been opened. Would you like my fellow Taoist to go with me? The person hesitated for a moment, then looked at the miserable situation of those proud sons of heaven and nodded. There are many whispers of this kind, and many people are backing out, causing the crowd to instantly decrease by 1/3. Upon hearing this, Bai Jie's expression became somewhat solemn. She had planned to blend in with these cultivators and fish in troubled waters, so she had to find another way. The spacious white robe tightly covers the white fall, making it very inconspicuous in the icy and snowy world. Along the way to the outer boundary of the Wanjie Gate, Bai Jie relied on the system to cheat and eavesdropped on the conversations of several people. Senior brother, it may take several Yuaning cultivators to work together to break through the ice barrier and open a path. A somewhat sharp male voice filled with righteous indignation and said, "Those people are selfish and only watch us lead the way, hoping to sit and enjoy the benefits of fishing. How can they contribute? Junior brother, be cautious." A weak and stern voice sounded. The news of Ice Phoenix's birth came suddenly, and Master ordered us to come and investigate. If it is true, the elders will definitely come to support us. Nowadays, there are indeed anomalies in the Arctic glaciers, and the saying, Ice Phoenix is about to emerge, protected by cold ice, is consistent with ancient records. To avoid being caught off guard, I will contact the leader to report the situation, and you can go down to regulate your breathing and recuperate first. Yes. Several people agreed. Bai Jie huddled in a corner of an icy stone, touched her chin, and asked the system, "Is there really any Ice Phoenix born?" Based on the sampling of the ice layer, the fluctuation of spiritual energy, and the detected earth vein breathing, it can be seen that not Ice Phoenix but also an extremely powerful ice attribute spirit beast is about to emerge. How about waiting for the big shots behind these people to poke a hole here and then going in to find my students? Master, your students may probably. Bai Dao suddenly had a bad premonition and her heart skipped a beat. Nest with spirit beast eggs. Bai Jie. You, the best, give me a reasonable explanation. The system seemed like a child who had done something wrong, stuttering and saying, I also suddenly remembered that I had discovered a strong spiritual fluctuation here. In order to better preserve the released physical body, it was placed at the center of spiritual energy fluctuations. Master. You also know that the situation was urgent at that time. Is my student your cuckoo egg? Bai Chuai smiled without laughing, then took a deep breath and stopped speaking afterwards. The matter has come to this point, talking too much is useless. I can't be a yellow sparrow, so I can only think of a way to infiltrate before those great powers come. As night falls, the sky is filled with twinkling stars, and the starlight casts a veil over this place, making the glaciers appear even more mysterious. Relying on her strong physique to resist the piercing coldness, Bai Jie followed the path set by the cultivators all the way to the place of obstruction. There are still some scattered people who haven't rested, trying to find flaws and be the first to eat crabs. She walked around to the other end of the sparsely populated area and tentatively reached out to touch, ready to be injured by the rebound. Bai Jie fiercely withdrew his hand. Whisper softly, "It pulls me." Is that all for Chapter 4? Playing with it. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. It seems to have autonomy, I'll try to communicate. With a raised eyebrow, Bai Jie looked serious and serious. Although this is our first collaboration and we haven't gone through a long period of adjustment, this team unexpectedly managed to keep up with us on the same level of success. It seems that the task system chosen by Zero for her is not too easy, it saves the adjustment period. Although sometimes it still makes people want to restore it to its factory settings, I really don't know who implanted this guy's emotional module. Master, connect to the other party's consciousness. How to say it? It is indeed an ice phoenix, but it has some issues that have prevented it from breaking its shell. So, it wants to make a deal with you. After listening, Bai Jie clasped his hands together and said, "The little one is quite clever. He took a liking to my blood before he even hit me. Promise it, on the condition of ensuring that I arrive safely at the destination. The matter is very simple. If that ice phoenix egg wants to be born, everything will be ready except for the east wind, and it will only wait for a favorable time and location. Ice phoenix is an ice attribute spirit beast, but its phoenix nature gives it extremely strong fire resistance. At the moment of the combination of yin and yang, it is precisely the best point for its rebirth and ability. Otherwise, even if it succeeds in birth, the weak one cannot fully retreat from the hands of the coveted cultivator. In the end, they could only become contract beasts, losing their freedom and suffering from enslavement. It seems to have some innate shortcomings, which make it unable to break through its shell for a long time. It is about to miss the auspicious time, so anxious. As a taskmaster shuttling through the infinite universe, Bai Dao's belief power contained in his essence and blood was enough to help him escape, and he was immediately targeted. After receiving a positive response from the other side, she placed her palms back on the ice barrier and was instantly pulled and fused into it. Then, as if coated with a layer of humanoid film, it entered the inner layer that the cultivators could not break through. Immediately, it charged rapidly in one direction like a shell, and in the midst of speed and passion, it was extremely flexible in avoiding various obstacles. The speed is so fast that she is worried about getting dizzy. Around the mountains, the view becomes extremely broad, and on the ice field, there is a lonely and lifeless aura that has been silent for thousands of years. From a high-altitude perspective, a pitch-black crack can be seen splitting open the entire glacier plain, and the closer to the ground, the greater and deeper the crack can be felt. The speed of falling suddenly accelerates, and the sense of weightlessness carries the ups and downs of the heart, unconsciously making people hold their breath. Can't we give a buffer time before landing? If it were a manga at this moment, a white soul would probably have already floated out of Bai Kai's mouth. Master, isn't the polar roller coaster great? Reaching the depths of the crevice, Bai Jie held on to an ice cone shimmering with a faint blue light. Her legs and feet were a bit weak, and she felt dizzy and unable to vomit. Feeling overwhelmed by the schadenfreude of not wanting to take care of the system, he only touched his heart and said, "I feel like there's something wrong with my heart. My internal organs seem to have shifted, and I may be dying soon. Give me a full body examination and examination." The system saw that she didn't seem to be joking and muttered, "The physical strength of the tasker shouldn't be so fragile." Still disdaining her integrity, she underwent a full body scan, and all the data was normal. The owner's body was extremely healthy, and it seemed that he could punch a golem beast to death. Golem beast is an edible spirit beast with excellent meat quality. Similar to the presence of pigs, it is 4 or 5 times larger in volume than pigs. Impossible, it must be your program that made a mistake. I can't do it anymore, I feel extremely uncomfortable. Bai Kai kept wailing, almost forcing tears to come out. The system was in a hurry and scanned again, but still couldn't find the problem. I suspect that the medical program was really damaged during the attack. Seeing Bai Dao's agony and sorrow, I was worried that my friends would hang up before the mission even started. I used my small treasury to exchange Bai Dao for the medicine to cure illness item. With a flash of golden light, the whole body feels comfortable, and the qi and blood are peaceful. The corners of Bai Kai's mouth curved slightly, revealing a successful smile that passed in an instant. Xiaoyang, you do have your own small treasury. You even pretended to be poor with me before. With only 100 points left in his pocket, Bai Dao embarked on a path of flaunting his skin. The system is hiding in a dark corner, calculating its remaining points of faith. This was the kickback it had accumulated through countless hardships in the hands of its previous taskers. It felt heartbroken while reminding itself not to follow the same example. The Ice Phoenix, who had been neglected for a long time, was no longer willing, and the cold wind around her blew uncontrollably. Leng was reviving Bai Chuai, who had just reached full health and was still in the prop protection period, and he shivered with cold. Anna, Anna. She raised her hands half over her forehead as a gesture of surrender, and then looked for a sharp drop of ice cone in the deep blue light. This is a serene blue land with a cold and mysterious atmosphere, which is both dreamy and serene, making people marvel at the incredible craftsmanship of nature. A few steps forward, a pile of irregular ice crystals arched a football-sized sapphire in a circular shape. The gemstone was crystal clear and could clearly reflect the figure of Bai Kai. Don't mention it, just this thing, I really didn't see it was a spirit beast egg. And directly below the circular ice crystal is a flat and smooth ice surface, with a few faint shadows visible, looking quite far from the ice surface. Those are not her students, are they? Tongzi is hiding deep enough. With a straight look in his eyes, Bai Lian neatly used an ice pick to cut through his palm. Blood dripped onto the spirit beast egg and was instantly absorbed. It was like an unsatisfied gluttony, eating in large bites until it turned pale and satisfied, only to crack a narrow slit. She is actually most afraid of pain, but fortunately, the previously deceived cure the illness with medicine was an intermediate prop. It's still within the time frame, and the wound heals quickly. However, the missing blood cannot be replenished together. This ice phoenix is consuming more blood than she expected. The grand scene of Zhongshan collapsing and the earth shattering, the sky and earth losing color, and spiritual energy converging into a vortex did not appear. A frosty white bird broke through the gemstone shell on its head and slowly nibbled on the gemstone fragments with its beak. She was very focused on eating, without any eyes left for her. Is that right here? Playing. Bai Jie swore that she saw elegance from this young bald bird's head. I don't know how long it will take to eat there, but Bai Dao began to ponder how to rescue his student who had been frozen for many years. Tong, why don't you dedicate yourself again? After all, it's you who caused the situation. The system covers its own small vault, and it's right to seal it for people, but the task is the owner's own, one code for one. But the attack was a sudden accident, and my reaction was already at the textbook level in the system, otherwise we would both be ruined. Your 100 points can be exchanged for, Shovel Master, how about? Bai Jie's eyes widened slightly and he closed his eyes in disappointment, saying, I thought we would be the best partners. After all, did talking about money hurt our relationship? Please. She was forced to accept this broken task. I can't receive unemployment benefits now, and I've also lost my family's income. Even the last 100 points have to be covered up. Impossible. Everything is the fault of that dog man. Her vacation, her retirement life at the thought of needing a heart-saving pill, I couldn't bear to be wronged and could only wrong Xiao Tongzi. The system with rich emotional programs hesitated, feeling a bit difficult, but still managed to hold on and didn't let go. Otherwise, I'll open it for you when it's finished eating. It's okay not to mention it, but when I mention it, my qi and blood surge. At some point, the bald baby finished gnawing on its own shell and transformed into a cute little baby with bare buttocks. Her skin was fair as snow, and her ice blue round eyes were sparkling. She was drooling and crawling towards her legs. Before this little phoenix hatched, it looked quite smart. How could you eat an eggshell and lose your brain? Disdainful ones moved their feet away. The baby grabbed an empty hand, curled its mouth, and with a sharp cry, it launched a physical attack on Bai Chuai. If the protagonist encounters a spirit beast egg, it must be a matter of minutes and drops of blood to acknowledge the protagonist. When she comes here, she not only donates blood for free but also has to work part-time as a nanny to take care of her children. Chapter 5. Jedi Escape. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Bai Jie frowned and covered her ears. The ice on the soles of the feet was shaking slightly, and there was a constant sound of ice cubes falling down. A slight click caught her attention, and as she lifted the baby, the other person miraculously stopped crying. A few steps closer to the ice surface covered in spider patterns, Bai Jie pointed to that area, his bright eyes pointing the baby's face upwards. Good child, you're the best. Howl towards here. The baby put its little hand into its mouth and looked at her with a confused and ignorant tilt of its head. Drool still flowed down the corner of the mouth, dripping onto the back of Bai Lao's hand. Bai Jie looked disgusted and wiped her hand on the other person's delicate skin. The other hand was not idle either, and directly hung her upside down and slapped the little buttocks of Q Bullet. The baby's expression froze for an instant, and then erupted into even more terrifying cries. Wow! The system covers its face. Master, you are abusing children. I don't know if I've been lying here for hundreds or even thousands of years, but I can't be considered a child. Anyway, she had a clear conscience, and no one was still a little baby. Click, click, the effect is extremely obvious. That's not right. Bai stumbled and the ground shook violently, as the previously anticipated grand scene seemed to begin. Damn it! This place is going to collapse. The system also issues a series of alarms at this time. Warning! The cracked ice valley is about to collapse, please evacuate quickly. Warning! A large number of high-level cultivators are advancing towards the cracked ice valley. Warning! The defense mechanism around the villain is damaged, posing a physical danger. Please rescue as soon as possible. Bad news came one after another, and Bai Dao's face turned slightly pale. After the automatic alarm sound was played, the system quickly explained. The ice phoenix was born, and the ice barrier spontaneously formed by the glacial atmosphere dissipated. The ice rift valley existed for her hatching, and completing the mission opened up the self-destruction mode. The leaking house happened to rain continuously at night, and Bai Kai gritted his teeth and jumped directly into the cracked ice surface. 4 tall figures appeared in front of her, the healed wound being cut open again, the emerald on her wrist shining brightly, and 4 blood-colored threads entered their eyebrows. Task target capture, connection completed. Program progress set at 20%. 50%. 100%. Task taker. Bai Jie position. Class leader identity confirmation. Permission is open task object. Feng Lu Linglong Belloc Jeremy O'Neill Cocraft Teapot Cup identity. Student restrict permissions to enable during the broadcast of the mechanical system sound. Bai Dao dodged several large pieces of broken ice with his flexible body movements and finally heard the heavenly sound. System space is open. Do you want to store the physical bodies of students in fusion? Yes. The light flashed and the 4 of them disappeared before their eyes. Without time to lament that she couldn't keep her last penny and was about to exchange for suitable items to escape, the ice phoenix under her armpit suddenly had a sudden rise in body temperature. Bai Dao clearly felt a burning sensation and had to put her down. The surrounding ice was evaporated by this hot air, and the line of sight was blocked by the steam. In a daze, Bai Lai was suddenly taken flying. The field of view rose, and the blue ice turned back to white. She returned to the high altitude above the Rift Valley. A clear and melodious cry sounded above her head, and Bai Kai only realized later that she was being grabbed by the claws of the ice phoenix on her shoulders. Her gaze could only see her huge and beautiful white wings, with clear and distinct feathers flowing with blue light. Undoubtedly, it is a magnificent phoenix. If we ignore her unappealing posture, that would be even better. Ice Phoenix should have felt danger and instinctively absorbed its original energy before suddenly transforming into an adult form. How long can she maintain this state? At most half an hour, otherwise it will cause significant damage to her spirit. Bai Chuai could feel that Ice Phoenix's breath was very chaotic, she was colliding like a headless fly. The fierce ice spiritual energy formed circles of strong winds around her, and the shattered ice debris left several deep scratches on her face. The tingling pain made Bai Dao unable to resist scratching, but he endured it again. It seems that the cure for illness has expired. Perhaps it was the successful reception of her antagonists, and at this point, she even had the mood to think of something else. Senior brother, look at this ice phoenix. Little junior sister will definitely like it. A familiar sharp sound sounded, and Bai Caixuan looked through the gap between Ice Phoenix's flapping wings and saw that it was indeed the disciples of the Wanjie Sect. There are several middle-aged cultivators with strong aura around, probably the elders they mentioned before. There are also some people who are separated from these few people, presumably from other forces. They clearly saw that Ice Phoenix's condition was not right and it wouldn't last long. We exchanged glances and planned to endure a chariot-will battle. As for who the flowers fell, we had to wait until we subdued Ice Phoenix before arguing. The sound of the system echoed in my mind. It's despicable. You don't have to be too angry, it's just normal thinking logic. Let's first think about how we can get out of it. Do you care about this little phoenix? We are all struggling to protect ourselves, otherwise if you go out of faith, we will take her to space jump. These people have advanced cultivation and must jump from a long distance. After Bai Kai finished speaking, he suddenly remembered something. He checked his backpack and indeed found something extra. A slender iron sword with a scabbard, without any patterns, very simple, or rather, shabby. Rust stains make people doubt whether this sword will turn into a pile of iron slag when pulled out. She remembers when the system said, "Congratulations to the taskmaster for experiencing numerous difficulties and fully initiating the mission. Congratulations to the tasker for achieving the hidden achievement of Mobile Blood Bank. Reward SSS level item. Sword walking to the end of the world." At that time, the situation was urgent and I didn't listen carefully to the broadcast, but the advanced props of the 3S really couldn't be ignored. She fell for nothing, oh no. View props. Sword wielding to the ends of the earth. A permanent prop evaluation. A peerless divine sword current level. Junior, upgradable, junior skill. Instantly travel thousands of miles, can breathe 3,000 miles 3 times a day, can be sacrificed. Bai Jie ignored a series of skills to be unlocked and focused on the explanation of sacrificial. Sacrificable. Refers to the ability to sacrifice this function and obtain skills after promotion. The original skill is frozen for 3 months, and the new skill only has 3 usage opportunities per month. Do you choose to sacrifice? The beautiful feathers of Ice Phoenix have been stained with blood, but the wings still instinctively protect white fall below. The white robe of Bai Lao covered her whole body, perfectly matching the color of the Ice Phoenix. In addition, her petite figure and the cover of an Ice Phoenix made no one aware of her existence for a while. Elder Zhao, there seems to be something underneath the Ice Phoenix, it's very protective. The sharp and unpleasant voice's untimely reminder made Bai Chuai's eyes cold. Wuan did not join the battlefield due to his low cultivation level, but he had already regarded this Ice Phoenix as a possession of his own Ice Spirit Root junior sister, and looked at it inch by inch. The few people who started the attack also noticed something unusual, and with a reminder, the attack became even more fierce. Attacks with colorful spiritual light arrived, weaving a dense and impenetrable net that could not be avoided. She heard the mournful cry of the ice phoenix, and one side of her wings drooped. Blood stains instantly leached out, like ink dripping into clear water, rendering a red flower. Bai Lao no longer hesitated and said, "Sacrifice immediately." Sacrifice successful. New skill. Leap thousands of miles, also known as 1/12 of the somersault cloud. It belongs to the spatial system and can jump 9,000 miles in space. It is limited to 3 times a month. If used 3 times a day, the skill will be frozen for 3 months. Please use with caution. As she was about to succeed, a sudden spatial distortion occurred and Ice Phoenix disappeared from everyone's sight. As the cultivators looked at it, they all teleported along the residual breath and chased away. Wuan, who looked delicate, was suddenly shocked and said, "Those eyes are so terrifying. That face. It's so ugly." In a blink of an eye, he forgot what he had just seen and felt uncomfortable all over. Bai Dao intentionally did it. Disgusting guy. Harvesting the wool from the system, he has suffered a series of misfortunes, which is enough for this kid to drink a pot in the next few days. Chapter 6. Trapped in Frost City. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After all, Xiaobing Huang was born from her own blood milk, but she didn't expect that absorbing the tasker's blood would cause it to lose control and rampage. Despite losing control and being besieged, Bai Dao was surprised to still remember to protect himself. The cultivator chased after him very tightly, and Bai Dao had to jump 1,000 miles, twice in a row before completely shaking off his tail. Don't be fooled by the fact that I jumped twice. I wasn't too far from the glacier either. I circled around and focused on getting black under a single light. Fortunately, Ice Phoenix returned to baby form in time, otherwise it would be catching and would have to jump again. Northern Border City, Frost City. At this moment, Bai Dao was wearing the tender yellow dress that had just awakened, which was already damaged and dirty. She was holding a baby wrapped in a shed white robe in her hand. She also smeared some black ash on her face and white robe, appearing shabby and embarrassed, blending in with the poor who were struggling in the city without any sense of discord. Perhaps it was because she saw a little girl holding a child in her hand, and the aunt standing next to her warmly asked, "Little girl, where is your family?" "This is you." Bai Jie lowered her eyes and said, "My parents had an accident, leaving only me and my sister. We can't survive in the village, and I want to come to the city to find a job to support myself and my sister." In just a few words, I don't know what big deal the aunt had in mind, but she comforted me in a soft tone. "This world is not good, some people are just bad eggs. It's better to leave the village to avoid encountering some dirty things." He looked at the 2 sisters mercifully, thinking that his family life would not help him in that way, so he only offered a kind word. "Don't queue up here for recruitment either, here." Auntie looked around and whispered in a low voice, "It's the place where Yuxiang Pavilion recruits servants, maids, and servants. You have beautiful eyes, and your appearance should not be bad. Don't jump in on your own." After speaking, he pulled the person towards a side alley. Pointing to the alley entrance, "Turn right from here and walk a street. There is a rouge shop hiring a female assistant, and the shopkeeper is a woman. The salary is lower, but life is peaceful." Bai Kai lowered her eyebrows and looked at her obediently, holding her rough hand with gratitude. Her voice trembled as she said, "Thank you, Auntie, I thank you. Poor thing, be strong, the days ahead will be long." Auntie sighed and looked at the sleeping baby. A group of cultivators wearing swords passed by behind, perfectly filtering out this pair of ordinary people as low as dust. Bai Jie's eyes flickered and she hugged the child in her arms. Say goodbye to the enthusiastic aunt, lower your head and quickly enter the alley, heading towards the rouge shop. The people at Wanjie Gate are not foolish. After losing their followers, they immediately sealed off the city near the glacier, and strict inspections were carried out at the entrance. Entry and exit must have identity plates issued by Frost City, and she saw many outsiders being forcefully taken away for investigation. Bai Jie looked up at the barrier on top that ordinary people couldn't see, and cursed inwardly. Gone. With this barrier in place, even spatial jumps are not effective, and any movement in space will be immediately marked and tracked. She has been trapped here for 3 days now, and the system has also been disconnected for 3 days. At the beginning, the system readily agreed to her exchange for consecutive misfortunes, but she was somewhat puzzled and did not expect such a result. If I had known earlier, I would have used my own faith. If I were unlucky, I would have been unlucky. Just endure it. The system is lost and the exchange mall is locked. Bai Jie always felt cursed, lacking in financial luck. Once the belief point was below 100, he would still be very unlucky. Drinking cold water would be like stuffing his teeth, which is no less than a high-level effect of consecutive misfortunes. This is also why she has been sticking to those 100 points and only thinking about squeezing private money from the system. The only thing that can be used now is sword walking the end of the world. After sacrificing the skill, it jumps in space twice in a row, triggering the passive skill, breath hidden. And now the baby's head is flickering with only the visible head emblem of Bai Jie. Hidden time remaining at 23.36.46, 23.36.45, in less than a day. Either she breaks through the blockade, or the people from Wanjie Gate withdraw. After pondering all the way, I unknowingly arrived at the door of the rouge shop. In the midst of Bai Kai's hesitation, the woman in the shop who was calculating also noticed her. Stopping his work, he twisted his waist and walked out. "Miss, do you want to buy makeup or?" I want to find a job." Bai Dao finally spoke up. She can't just wander the streets all the time. She has enough spiritual stones to stay in, but she doesn't have an identity card. Moreover, the restaurant and guest house are the strictest areas for investigation, and she cannot take risks. Abandoned temples and so on, an orphan girl still doesn't consider it, so as not to cause trouble. Yen Yang looked at the ragged little girl, who was not tall and somewhat thin. My face was dirty and I couldn't see clearly, but my eyes were clear and beautiful. He was still holding a baby in his arms, looking pitiful. When Yen Yang looked at Bai Kai, he also calmly scanned her. A woman in her early 30s was dressed in simple clothes that couldn't conceal her proud capital. Her waist was slender and plump, and due to running a makeup shop, her makeup on her face was impressive. She was such a charming woman. "Have you ever done similar work before?" Yen Yang casually asked, without first asking about her background. Sure enough, it all depends on work experience. Bai Lao had no choice but to repeat the background he had previously told his aunt. "Oh. So you're just inexperienced." Yen Yang felt a little disgusted and didn't seem satisfied, so she turned around and decided to leave. Bai Jie was stunned. No, didn't that aunt say the shopkeeper was good? Such a lack of empathy. Before Bai Jie could reach out his hand, he said, "Come in." It turned out to be a winding road. The boss lady who makes it difficult for people to guess her thoughts. As soon as she entered, Yen Yang began to explain the work that Bai Dao needed to do, without waiting for her to adapt. Finally, looking at the sleeping baby, "What are you going to do with this procrastinator?" "I'm not allowed to take the baby to work, so the baby won't cry and disturb my business." Bai Chuai frowned slightly and said, "She's not a drag on oil. She's very well behaved and won't make a scene." Yen Yang raised her eyebrows and changed the topic, "There's a miscellaneous room behind the shop. You can clean it up later and stay there temporarily. I live in a wing room, and no one is allowed to enter." "Got it." Bai Lao nodded. "All right, tidy up and do your work." She continued to fiddle with her abacus. Yen Yang's shop is actually quite remote, and there aren't many business deals throughout the day. Bai Lao was somewhat worried about whether she could afford to pay, but she seemed to be living a comfortable life herself, and Bai Lao naturally enjoyed it easily. In the evening, lying on the barely tidied-up small bed, Bai Jie poked the sleeping ice phoenix with her hand, but there was no response. I called the system several times in my heart, but there was no response. The only thing that accompanied her was the constantly flashing countdown sign, which made her even more restless. What can we do tomorrow? Take the sword and walk to the ends of the earth to kill. Summoning out the sword, I can't imagine the scene of her fighting with this broken sword. Won't they cut it off with a single blow? Bai Dao drew his sword and looked at the blade that was not sharp at all, intending to touch it with his hands. Master, it's best not to do this. Chapter 7. The Moment of Fortune. You are listening at novelfull.audio. She never thought the sound of the system was so pleasant. What's going on? Do you want to be the first disabled system to be exiled due to abandoning your host? Bai Dao withdrew his hand, his mouth curved into a smile and pressed down. No, no. Master, listen to my explanation. I found a program bug and went to seek benefits for both of us. Thinking of the previously unconventional and generous system, Bai Jie had an idea. You have found the backdoor path to the Faith Library. No, it's not. Oh. Bai Dao lacked interest. But it's also similar. Don't breathe heavily when speaking. After the task was fully activated, I noticed something was wrong when you received the 3S item. My task setting program does not hide achievement rewards, only rewards related to completing the corresponding villain teaching task. So this program is an outsider, and I suspect that the virus that attacked us was intercepted and bitten down by my program. I have been conducting internal scans for the past few days and have found that program for absorption and digestion. It is now fully usable by me. Bai Jie raised his eyebrows and said, so what? I also found the check.in system inside, and there is a high probability that there will be a belief point reward for daily check.in. Bai Jie's eyes lit up and he said, beautiful, Tongzi. Master, can the signed belief points be divided into 5 or 5 points? Bai Kai was in a particularly good mood and easy to talk to. Okay. I quickly came to sign in before midnight. Please, point of faith, successful check.in, congratulations on obtaining the lower grade spirit stone *100, white fall insulated from money. Master, are you black-handed? I'll come next time. Bai Kai felt bitter in her heart, so she said, can I exchange these 100 spirit stones for 10 faith points? To prevent inflation, the mall only accepts top-quality spirit stones with a 1.1 exchange ratio, conversely, 100,000.1. Equivalent to the recycling price of the lower grade spirit stone in the mall being 1,000,000.1, and exchanging 100,000 belief points for one top-quality spirit stone. Unscrupulous merchants. Is inflation used this way? This is simply an unequal treaty. Indeed, exchanging faith points for local currency is the most unprofitable transaction. Next time, you need to save up for subsistence allowances, and if you can earn spiritual stones, you can earn them yourself. With her eyes wide open, Bai Dao couldn't wait to start her next check.in. Sign in successful. Congratulations on obtaining the top-grade breath-gathering pill *1, without waiting for the system to speak, Bai Jie sighed and said, next time you come. After checking the efficacy of the Lianxi pill, she felt much better in her heart. High-grade breath-refining pill. Hides all breath, effective for 1 month, and cannot be traced to the later stage of the non-transformation period. It's still good, the current big problem has been solved. The system also thinks that if you exchange faith points, it would require several hundred. However, isn't it a loss if it's not a belief point? I thought about Bai Dao's urinary nature again, and in the end, I would definitely squeeze her purse to change props. Suddenly, I regained balance. Who could make it always say no to her? Her ears were soft. Alas, I am the soft god in the legend center. Solve the big trouble, Bai Dao can finally relax and fall asleep. The next day, she was woken up by the system alarm clock and narrowly escaped being bedridden, waking up a moment earlier than Yen Yang. As she was clearing inventory in the warehouse, a loud noise came from outside. "Shopkeeper, have you seen any suspicious people recently?" "Oh," the fairy laughed. "All that's visible in my shop are women who love beauty. I wonder what kind of suspicious person you're referring to. The neighbor said you hired a buddy to take care of the baby yesterday. Where are the people?" Speaking is the sound of pushing and bustling, as well as the movement coming from the back room. Bai Jie twisted her eyebrows and stepped out to meet the incoming cultivator. Sitting on the ground with a weak leg and a slight tremble in his body, he lowered his head with a bewildered expression and said, "Immortal. Immortal." The person lowered their head and carefully examined for a while before lifting them up. At first glance, it was a young girl with scars on her face. She frowned and threw it away. "Where's that child?" Bai Jie saw him holding a compass-like object in his hand, possibly a detector. He obediently walked into the miscellaneous room and picked up the child. Ice Phoenix is still sleeping. If there is so much movement and she hasn't woken up, it will definitely attract the attention of these people. Bai Kai's footsteps were slow, and she had planned several plans in her heart but was rejected by herself. The cultivator with the sword poked the white swaddle with his sword, staring at Bai Chuai with a skeptical gaze. "This child is sleeping soundly," he said. "Little sister, always well behaved." Bai Jie held the child in her arms, her voice low and inaudible. "In my mind, I frantically called out to the system, look for any props that can be used. We can't afford to exchange what's available now. I'll keep looking. The cultivator's eyes flashed with a fierce look as he grabbed the baby's neck and forcefully snatched it from Bai Dao's hand, but the child remained motionless. The person behind him took the compass from the cultivator's hand and was about to bleed the baby. Bai Jie's heart lifted up to her throat, and she pounced on the hand that was holding the child, covering it. She shouted, "Don't hurt my sister, put my blood. Get lost." Bai Jie was kicked away with a rude kick, collided with the pillar behind him, and fell forward on the ground, vomiting a mouthful of blood. At the critical moment, the child, who had been motionless, burst into tears with a continuous voice. The system's announcement also sounded in real time. "The simulation doll has been successfully redeemed and used. Task player account balance 0". The cultivator paused for a moment, but his movements continued. He would rather kill 1,000 by mistake than let go of one. The child's palm was cut and he cried even more bitterly, blood dripping on the compass. After waiting for a moment, nothing happened. The person impatiently threw the child down and Bai Jie rushed over to catch it, holding it and sobbing. How pitiful. The pointing outside, coupled with the futile return, made the cultivator very angry and swung a sword towards the ground outside. The crowd of onlookers immediately dispersed like birds and beasts. As the matter came to an end, the invading cultivator also had to leave. The leading cultivator still felt unwilling and turned around to ask, "Where is your identity badge?" Shit. Bai Jie could hardly suppress his anger and wanted to draw his sword to confront this group of people. "Master, calm down, fairy, it's here with me. Yesterday she came to look for work, but I was suppressed." Yen Yang, who had been serving as the background board, suddenly made a sound and took out 2 nameplates from behind the counter, handing them to the person. The person carefully checked it and didn't find anything unusual. He snorted and left with the person. After so many things happened and the business continued, Yen Yang decided to close the shop. The two of them were speechless for a moment. Bai Kai sat on the ground all along, her scattered hair covering her face. "Yen Yang is not easy," she said. "All right, don't look like you're a dead mother, pretending won't be fun anymore." Yen Yang dragged a chair and sat in front of Bai Jie, flipping her delicate hands to admire, her tone casual. "How did you find out? Why did you help me?" Bai Jie sat cross-legged with the already quiet child, calmly lifting her head to look at her. Yen Yang's gaze remained on Bai Dao's face, and Bai Dao instinctively touched the scars on her face. It's hard not to be doubted as he swaggers through the market with his icy scars on his face. I see, it was my negligence. Those people were your ointment from yesterday. Bai Jie thought about washing up yesterday. When the other party saw the wound on her face, she explained that it was a stone scratch on the ground. Without further questioning, she gave her a bottle of fragrant ointment to apply. Yen Yang propped up her face and curled her lips with a smile. You're not stupid yet. Is this the ice phoenix that the Wanjie Gate is tracking everywhere? He said, his eyebrows turning and staring at the baby. What is your purpose? Bai Kai's eyes turned cold and he had to ask again. Master, why don't you just leave her behind? The main task is still important. Ice Phoenix and its owner, the system naturally stands by its own owner. Don't be so fierce, I'm not interested in what Ice Phoenix is. You've ruined the good deeds of the Wanjie Sect, and I'm not happy yet. Chapter 8. The Villains Wake Up. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the end, Bai Kai didn't know what Yen Yang's purpose was, and she didn't put forward any conditions. As she said, it's just a matter of helping out when faced with injustice. Since her identity has been exposed and she has the identity card provided by Yen Yang, Bai Dao can choose to leave the Frost City immediately. However, it's not the time yet. If you were suspected today and left immediately, it would be too late to have 300 taels of silver in this place. She had to stay for a few more days, still staying overnight at the rouge shop. Yen Yang didn't rush anyone either. The store was still open and Bai Jie helped guard it, so she couldn't see anyone all day. After signing in for 4 more days, Bai Dao and the system took turns playing. 1 medium-grade beauty pill, 1 medium-grade jade skin pill, 1 bottle of top-grade pigu pill, and 10 lower-grade spirit stones. Master, you are a lottery black hole. Your attribute values are not lucky, are you? Even I have been affected. After waking up the dreamer with one sentence, Bai Dao immediately said, call up the attribute panel. Task taker. Bai Jie blood type. Type A height. 156 cm level. C permanent props. Traces of fallen, walking the end of the world with a sword, lucky value. EFC. What's wrong with her attributes? An inexplicable symbol behind the level, an additional permanent item, and an unpredictable lucky value. The system has also seen such strange attribute values for the first time. Master, and trace of fallen, cannot be viewed due to insufficient permissions. And indeed, your luck is very poor, with EF hovering around and rarely reaching a Bai Jie perfunctorily answered the system a few sentences and began to lose focus. She felt shrouded in a thick fog, and from the moment she entered this mission, everything was out of control. There was something pressing down on her, and she couldn't breathe. Even the viruses that attack the system are very different. The check.in system detached from the other party looks like a product of the Wanjie System Bureau, similar to the cannon fodder system she once detached. But why did the things in the System Bureau launch an attack on her? What's wrong with it? I am completely disconnected from the system and cannot ask for change clearly. She lost contact as soon as she entered the mission. Is there no emergency measure on Zero's end? Why hasn't there been any news for so long? Can she really return after completing the task? Bai Jie fell into deep suspicion, and the system seemed to sense her state. Master, you are just under too much psychological pressure because the task has not progressed yet. You need to rest well now, otherwise your spirit will be overwhelmed. Perhaps the system's persuasion had an effect, causing Bai Jie's tense strings to relax. Then a huge sense of fatigue invaded and gradually fell asleep. When I woke up again, it was already 3 strokes of the sun. It's strange that Yen Yang didn't wake her up to look at the shop. Stepping out of the room, it was quiet outside, but the shop door was still closed. Bai Caixin felt strange and looked at Yen Yang's door. She walked over and knocked. Yen Yang. Are you there? No one. She didn't come back yesterday, forget it, it's none of our business. Let's go today. I originally wanted to tell her that since the person is not around, I'll leave a note. Bai Kai walked to the city gate with 2 identity cards and handed them to the defending cultivator. The city guarding cultivator glanced up at her and then glanced at the child. Bai Chuai prayed in his heart not to do anything wrong. Mainly because I also spent the last 100 points, and my lucky value is still the same. It's just a waste of time and there's no bottom inside. Let's go. With a deep sigh of relief, Bai Jie took the identity card and walked out of the city nodding and bowing. It's not easy, she even wants to cry. Keep going all the way, afraid of being stopped halfway. Master, what are you doing? The system exclaimed and was frightened to the point of being completely stunned. Can we not create a negative mindset? The integration of the villains is about to be completed, release them quickly. Bai Dao looked at it and it was really true. The progress of Feng Lu is 99%, Linglong Bellic's progress is 98%, Jeremy O'Neill Kokrav is 99% progress, 97% progress in making teacups. Coincidentally, the system space cannot accommodate live creatures. If they were to merge in the city, it would be troublesome. Bai Jie looked around and immediately went into the woods to find a hidden place before releasing the person. Only then do we have time to carefully examine a few people. Undoubtedly, she is the villain, with an average of 180, which makes her so delicate. Feng Lu is dressed in a gorgeous and complex robe with black and dark red patterns. Shoulders wide and waist narrow, with a straight and upright body shape. Her facial features are exceptionally handsome, with a straight nose and thin lips. Under her sword eyebrows are a pair of enviable curly eyelashes. Temperament gives people an inviolable sense of divinity, or a fear that emanates from the bottom of their hearts, and they cannot approach them. Linglong Belloc wore a blue and black uniform resembling a military uniform, with fair skin and beautiful long legs, and chestnut curly hair tied into a high ponytail. The name has a bit of a modern Western feel, but the face is actually Eastern in appearance, bright and bold, with a confident and domineering elder sister style. I don't know what kind of scenery it looks like when I open my eyes. Anyway, Bai Jie just wants to shout, "Sister, I can." Jeremy O'Neill Kokrav's style is very prominent, with a completely black robe covering the entire person. Only a slightly pale and delicate chin can be seen, and gender cannot be seen. The whole person gives a somewhat gloomy feeling. The teapot cup, on the other hand, is the person that Bai Kai thinks doesn't look like a major villain the most. Without any other characteristics, he can be said to be ordinary and unremarkable. His temperament is also peaceful, and he can't even be found in the embarrassing group. He is quite suitable for being a spy. After admiring his own students, Bai Dao Gang and others opened their eyes for a few seconds. When you close your eyes, you don't even feel it. As soon as the big villains open their eyes, a sense of oppression comes. Oh, Tongzi, I have some weak legs. Master, stay calm and don't panic. They can't harm you, they have restricted permissions. I feel a little at ease. The few people first looked at the surrounding environment and then tacitly distanced themselves. Feng Lu remained motionless, while the other few people coincidentally walked the farthest away from him. The eyes of the masses are bright. Cough, cough. Bai Bai pretended to cough and broke the deadlock, afraid that they would start fighting. Everyone must have many doubts in their hearts, please be patient and listen to my explanation. First of all, let me introduce myself. I am Bai Dao, and I am also the one who summoned everyone to this world due to system reasons. Language communication is barrier-free. We can't say anything about tasks, we can only create a set of arguments now. Summoning. The voice is a bit hoarse, which should be the reason for not speaking often. Alright, Jeremy O'Neill Kokrav is a man. That's right, I hope to find like-minded people to fulfill my wish, so I used all my abilities to activate the summoning formation. Of course, we paid a price and now we have lost all our strength. Why do you think I will help you? The Imperial sister casually asked with her hands in her chest, as if watching the play. But one thing to confirm is that you are summoned by me and cannot harm me. In extreme cases, she can even forcefully manipulate them. Of course, this cannot be said to have a counterproductive effect. And only by fulfilling my wish can you return to your original world. A fist stagnated in front of Bai Dao. The teacup withdrew its hand and awkwardly scratched the back of its head. I really can't hurt it. The little man in Bai Kai's heart covered his chest and said, oh my. I almost didn't tense up, huh, it's a bit interesting. Linglong Belloc laughed heartily. What do you wish for? Bai Kai wanted to think from the perspective of the villain in order to deceive them. In order to appear sociable, a bold voice blurted out, our goal is to dominate the cultivation world. Chapter 9. Small stature, causing a lot of trouble. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The scene was surprisingly quiet, with an awkward atmosphere. Bai Kai pursed her lips and pretended to be calm to break the deadlock. How about it? Isn't it grand and very motivating? What a trouble. The teacup clearly disliked the trouble and looked impatient. Feng Lu remained silent, her gaze chilling. Bai Kai looked at the Imperial sister eagerly, who swept up and down with a disdainful expression, it's a waste of time. Send me back. His hoarse voice was emotionless and full of refusal. Tongzi, these villains are not quite what I imagined, Bai Kai's smile froze, agreed. However, this task may be helpful. The system has pushed a selective long-term task. Due to the time and space barrier, the power of the villains is suppressed. Please ask the tasker to establish energy pools for each villain at the base to convert their power. Do you accept the task? Selective tasks mean the ability to abandon them. So, the current villains actually have extremely low strength, no wonder they obediently stand here to listen to her and leave without turning around. On all sides, he is quite calm without any abnormalities, but in fact, he is extremely anxious inside, isn't he? Refused her invitation because of lack of strength. Feeling embarrassed. Bai Jie thought about his experience a few days ago and felt that in this cultivation world where strength is paramount, it is impossible to complete tasks safely without strength. Accept. Task claimed successfully. The task details are as follows. Bai Dao temporarily skipped the details and saw the following task reward. 50,000 faith points, it's worth it. Continue to deceive. Cough, persuade. This interlude only lasted for a dozen seconds, and the smile on Bai Dao's face was much more friendly and vivid. Don't be too busy refusing. I know your abilities are limited now, even if you don't want to help me choose to leave and explore on my own, it will still be very troublesome in this unfamiliar world. I am the summoner, and I can build energy pools for you to provide energy. You can take this time to get to know the world better and then consider whether or not to help me fulfill my wishes. Now that we are a community with a shared future, can't you occasionally help me with small things that I can do as an exchange? Bai Jie lowered her stance and tried to communicate with an equal attitude rather than a dominant tone of command. Besides, there may be things in this world that can be helpful to you. Even if I can't fulfill my wish in the end, when it's time to summon, you can still leave safely. I don't know which sentence had an impact on them, but the Imperial sister actually responded first, and the teacup followed closely behind. Jeremy asked, time limit, how long? I'm not sure about this either, after all, it's also my first time summoning. In the end, he nodded in agreement. Bai Jie turned his gaze to Feng Lu, his deep gaze seeming to lure her into the abyss of hell, and she silently turned her gaze away. I'll play with you for a while. His lazy and cold voice was too sweet to hear. The smile on Bai Chuai's lips widened, and finally it was done. Ah, ah, ah. Ice Phoenix, who had been holding the background board in her arms for a long time, suddenly woke up and reached out her small hand to make a sound. Linglong raised her eyebrows and said, "Just now I wanted to ask, who is this child? I can tell you, I hate taking care of children the most." "I didn't want you to bring it," Bai Dao sighed. In a brief tone, I pinched out some of their content and informed a few people. "You are small and have caused a lot of trouble, no wonder you want to dominate the world." Linglong's tone was disdainful, but her movements were somewhat affectionate as she pressed Bai Chuai's head. Feng Lu said, "I'm tired." It turned into a black ribbon and draped around Bai Lao's neck. "As fellow humans, how beautiful are you? It's really convenient. You don't even need to walk anymore. What species is this guy?" Linglong was envious. Jeremy also turned his head and glanced with interest. "I can help you take her." Hu Chu's sudden initiative made Bai fall into tears. Before he could say a word of gratitude, his next sentence frightened Bai Dao and made her hug Ice Phoenix even tighter. "She's dead, and the body can also be left for me." No, I just need to hold it myself." "Tut tut, what strange species are you calling?" The Linglong elder sister patted Bai Lao's shoulder and roast. Bai Jie said, "Sister, you have also cursed yourself." Still, Jeremy asked the core question. "Where are we going?" 3 tall people followed behind, and Bai Dao felt quite imposing for a moment. The task has finally entered the right track, and the system is right. Her previous irritability must have been due to too much pressure, but now it's not like people have the spirit to celebrate happy events. Fuck it. Bai Jie wanted to pretend that she didn't see it, but in the end, she shrugged and fell back. Originally, I followed Bai Jie around the corpse, but unexpectedly she fell back. Linglong. Do you know each other? That landlady who helped me. Linglong frowned. As a qualified villain, he would definitely not meddle in his own affairs. Think carefully, saving her will cause trouble. Since you want to dominate the cultivation world, you must maintain a clear mind. Linglong's tone rarely carries seriousness and disagreement. "I hate trouble," said the teacup. Jeremy was very straightforward, revealing the scepter covered in a black robe, and the sharp-bottomed target was Yen Nyang's heart. Bai Jie squatted down and used his hand to block the sharp edge, while the class leader's protective mechanism froze Jeremy's scepter. "Kindness is not a good quality for you now." Linglong left a sentence and strode forward. Jeremy also walked away, looking on both sides of the teacup at the ice phoenix that had been held by Bai Jie with wide-open eyes and curious glances, and also left. After a while, the speed slowed down, obviously waiting for her. Bai Jie sighed and helped Yen Nyang walk. "Tongzi, I just feel like they are really villains now. Only by not being bound by any emotions can we achieve great things." "Do you feel emotionally bound?" From Ice Phoenix to Yen Nyang, I promised not to mind my own business, but it's good to forget that. "I'm really asking for trouble, right?" "Master, just be yourself. You are the mentor of the villain, don't be influenced by them." Bai Kai was taken aback and gave a bitter smile. This task was really difficult to do, and just as it started, she was taken away. Because it's a bit lonely, that's why when the surroundings suddenly become so lively, subconsciously relax your guard. Isn't she always aware that she is someone who doesn't love to owe her feelings? Do you say that in my memory of the task that was stripped away, it has also created a profound bond with many people as a result? Have I ever suffered from these shackles before? The system has not responded. Bai Kai continued to mutter to himself, "Suddenly, I regret stripping away those memories. Master, once the task memory is detached, it will not be restored. Instead of dwelling on the impossible past, let's first look at the present." The sound of the system suddenly became very serious, like a warning. "I know. You want to give me chicken soup again. It's really difficult for you, miser." Bai Kai restrained his divergent thoughts and answered in a relaxed tone. "Ask yourself, who are we misers?" Returning to a relaxed topic. "I have an empty balance now. If we encounter any difficulties, we must stand by and help each other. The implied meaning is self-evident. The system pufferfish face is so angry. By the way, I haven't checked in yet. Sign in now. Draw some healing pill and give it to Yen Yang, then you don't owe anything. Find a safe place to put the person down and leave easily. Bai Jie doesn't even expect any faith to fall, this is fate to recognize. Successful check.in, congratulations on obtaining the top. Quality spring revival pill *1 and belief points *1000. Chapter 10. Exploration. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. My dream comes true. There is still a point of faith. Bai Jie trembled and raised a hand. Tongzi, can you see if you're shining with gold? I always feel a bit unreal. Your luck level just reached S level in an instant, it's unbelievable. Yeah. She is a daily lucky E. Last time when O still got the 3S props, was there something special that she didn't notice? The black ribbon swayed slowly as she walked. A gust of wind blew gently and swept through the corners of her eyes. Bai Daowu realized. If there is really anything special, it is that this Fenglu villain is all around. You can't make a hasty decision once or twice. Try again next time you sign in. Master, it's agreed, 55 points. Once a word is spoken, it is unforgettable. I will not break my promise, Bai Kai said freely. Unexpectedly, she also waved her hand and casually gave a 500-point highlight moment. Watching the balance change from 0 to 500, I am confident. The affectation that had arisen with Ling Long and the others before dissipated. This suddenly cheerful mood made her unable to help but express a sentence in her heart. The light boat has crossed thousands of mountains. Taking a deep breath of the fresh air in the forest, I strode past a few people with a soft voice and said, let's take a walk, let's find a place to rest. I'll talk to you about this primordial realm. Roar. With a low growl, Bai Dao's footsteps were stopped, and the hair on both sides was shaken up, with suspicious water stains lingering on her face. Bai Kai stood in front of the cave, confronting a fierce spirit beast. She was about to rest in the cave with her people when she collided with it, which seemed to have returned from foraging. Watching the bloodstains left behind from the mouth of the spirit beast after eating, Bai Dao summoned his iron sword and put down Yen Yang while being vigilant. Spiritual beasts usually have intelligence, but the giant wolf with 2 heads in front of her may not be able to reason with humans. She has already seen the greed in its eyes. I just got my faith point, I have to take it out so soon. Exchange for the beginner sword technique of sweeping shadow from above. Redemption successful, balance 350 points. Do you want to use it? Use. The claws of the 2-headed wolf were grabbed towards Bai Jie, but were blocked by the unsheathed long sword grid. The figure of Bai Chuai swayed and leaped upwards, with several sword lights attacking from all directions. Despite its large size, it was exceptionally agile, and most of its attacks were dodged. The sword blades and wolf claws clashed, making a piercing sound. Bai Kai Chu has just learned the sword technique and is still adapting, without any intention of killing him with a single blow. After several rounds of interaction, proficiency gradually increases. Hunting moment. Bai Jie caught a glimpse of the loophole, picked up the sword flowers, and the fallen leaves scattered like 10,000 arrows, enveloped by the sword energy. Taking advantage of the situation, he swung a sword horizontally, and the intertwined sword light advanced with the shadow of nothingness. Blood splattered everywhere, and 2 spherical objects rolled away, followed by the sound of heavy objects falling to the ground. She leaped up and inserted her long sword into the body of the giant wolf, absorbing blood and spiritual energy recklessly. In no time, the wolf turned into silver powder and dissipated. The wind stopped and the leaves fell. The rust on the iron sword seemed to be moistened by fresh blood, much lighter, and the silver light flashed away at the blade. Retract the sword back to its sheath, and the iron sword disappears. Bai Kai walked calmly to her previous position and helped Yen Yang enter the cave. The three onlookers looked at her cold figure, exchanged a vague glance, and followed in. Bai Jie ignited a bonfire, illuminating the pitch-black cave. This place is very clean, not just the environment but the atmosphere. The various traces inside indicate that this place should often be used as a resting place by people, with no traces or aura of wild animal life, and naturally it would not be the lair of a two-headed wolf. When she chose this location, the system had already scanned and provided a safe conclusion. Why? Bai Jie looked directly at Ling Long, with mental interference, which is really a good ability. She underestimated the villains, even if they only had 10% of their strength. They cannot harm her, but they can choose a detour, such as using a knife to kill. Bai Kai did not want to speculate about them with such malice, but the villains from the plot world, who are unpredictable and unpredictable, are predetermined labels. Not to mention disappointment and anger, even a little doubt about the stability of landing. If there is a problem, it should be resolved on the spot. If the seeds of suspicion are planted, it will not be conducive to her later tasks. Linglong's tone in the face of Bai Chuai's questioning remained indifferent and casual. I have to see what kind of abilities the people I'm following have before I dare to cause trouble recklessly, regardless of the consequences. After all, I didn't promise to help you clean up the mess. It seems that it's still Yen Yang's fault, causing her dissatisfaction and wanting to give herself a boost. The teacup and Jeremy should be aware and happy to see it come to fruition. Oh, I got it. Ling Long still has a sense of propriety. The level of the two-headed wolf is not high, so she probably didn't take the opportunity to kill her heart. My ability depends on the level of trust you have in me. I don't expect you to have no reservations, but there is no doubt about my bond with you. I won't break my wings on my own. This kind of thing is enough once. That's it, show off your momentum, you're the class leader. The system is waving flags and shouting for Bai Jie in its mind. Ling Long clearly unexpectedly lost her first appearance since meeting, and her eyes flickered with a smile. Xiao Dian's edges are quite similar. A serious conversation ended with everyone's tacit agreement. Bai Jie took out the finest spring returning pill and gave it to Yen Yang to take. The fragrance of the pill overflowed, causing everyone's spirits to shake. Jeremy's reaction was the greatest, as he suddenly came to life in front of the background board. He lowered his head and looked straight at the pill. Ling Long. There are many good things in this world that are worth looking forward to. Jeremy stood up and walked to Yen Yang's side, with a scepter passing over her body. She's healed, he said, pharmacist. I'm not, but there's a profession of alchemist in this world. Bai Dao took out the Pai Gu Dan and handed it to the three people. Pai Gu Dan, you don't have to eat one pill for 3 days. The teacup seemed uninterested, so he just ate it and muttered to himself, it was great to give me the corpse of that two-headed wolf just now. You acted so fast. Bai Kai's mouth twitched at the corner, this obsession ice phoenix was playing happily with her hand holding the teacup, and her face was much flushed. The teacup also amused her with joy, and everyone had a great time playing. It's hard to judge. If Bing Huang knew the other party was craving her phoenix bones, she wouldn't know if she could still laugh. On the other end, Jeremy took the Pigu Dan and took out several bottles containing green solutions from somewhere. He ground the Pigu Dan into powder and placed them one by one, engrossed in researching new things. Later, Bai Jie explained the common sense of the cultivation world to a few people and unexpectedly activated the mandatory task. Please find suitable teaching teachers for the 3 villains. Task rewards belief points of 10,000, fragments of 3, the fragments did not explain what they were. 3 people. Is this excluding Feng Lu? It is obvious that Ko Ling Long is interested in the refining array, while Jeremy is the alchemy maker and spirit plant, and the teapot and cup are the imperial beasts. The 3 of them perfectly divided the 6 cultivation skills. Just, looking for a teacher, a shabby base, an empty purse, master, the program I have merged has many daily tasks to collect wool, and it can be refreshed tomorrow. I remember this kind of daily task would drop building rewards, which happened to upgrade the base. There was movement coming from beside her, and Yen Yang woke up. She looked around and touched her own pulse, then closed her eyes and felt it for a moment. Top-grade spring revival pill. Thank you. If you don't violate your principles, feel free to come to me for any useful information in the future. Bai Kai only wanted to balance kindness and never thought that the value of this top-notch spring revival pill seemed to be underestimated by her, and she even included a favor as a gift. Okay. Thinking of the other pills that were checked in her backpack, she felt that the teacher's salary was also affordable. Yen Yang's injury has completely recovered without any sequelae, but unfortunately, the broken golden pill can only be repaired later. You don't ask me why. You didn't ask me either. Bai Jie picked up the fire with a stick, making it burn even hotter. Yesterday, I was out of the city and heard that the Yuxiang pavilion was on fire. You are indeed sharp. Yen Yang pursed her lips and wanted to say something, then glanced at the villainous trio with concern. They are the people I trust, what do you have to say directly? Bai Jie's natural words left the three people on the side slightly stunned. You have taken the ice phoenix that the Moon Gate wants, and they will definitely not give up.